Hello and welcome to the AV Exchange. I'm your host, Joe Dunbar. We are presented as always by Midwich US. It is Thursday, March 13th. We are cruising through Q1 for most folks. We're getting right near the end of it. So I appreciate everybody taking time out of their schedule to join us today. I'm always excited about it. Today, we've got a new partner with us, the team over at NewBlue. We're going to bring them in a little bit. Before we do, you guys who have been with us before kind of know how this goes. But if you haven't, I'm going to walk through kind of the agenda. We're going to meet Jacob and Ian from the team at NewBlue today. We're going to get an introduction to them as a company and kind of figure out who they are. And then we're going to dive into a product called Captivate, which is kind of where our main focus will be today, but that's not solely what we'll be talking about. So we've got a little freedom to kind of work away from that. Please, if questions kind of arise and things like that, don't be afraid to ask them. I'm going to press them to give us a demo. I don't know how in-depth we will or won't get. It kind of depends on the questions you guys have, so don't be afraid to push us there. But I think live demos are always a great thing, and certainly uncover some opportunities to have a little fun with it. And we're going to, one thing I for sure want to ask about is third-party integrations with the solution, and we'll get into some other stuff as well. Before we dive in, let's look at some housekeeping items. We have the Q&A for questions. Please stick your questions in the Q&A. I don't always catch them in the chat. I certainly do my best, but I've got screens galore going on, as you can sometimes tell. So please put those in the Q&A to make sure that we get those addressed appropriately. You can use the chat for general discussion. I love to hear where everybody is. I am currently down in Southern Nevada. It is not beautiful weather today, so if you are getting sunshine, you are doing much better than me. We're going to skip the awareness poll, and then we are going to do a StreamDeck giveaway, courtesy of the team at NewBlue. We do like to do a raffle at the end of the program, just as our way of saying thank you for giving us your time and participating with us. And the team at NewBlue has been generous enough to provide a StreamDeck for a giveaway. So stick around, certainly insert some questions. The more questions you answer, the more times I will drop your name in the wheel generator, and that will improve your chances of winning. But I will caveat that by saying make sure they are purposeful, quality questions. If it's just a question to be a question, I'm not giving you any points for that. There's no gaming the system here, folks. So before I bring in Jacob and Ian and the team from NewBlue, we're going to take a look at a promo video and get a little introduction to the company, and then we'll.
Hi, I'm Ian Stark for NewBlue. In the simplest of terms, NewBlue Captivate is a combined production control room and graphics powerhouse. Captivate lets you create broadcast quality graphics and overlays, or you can use the massive library of presets, such as titles, lower thirds, transitions, picture-in-picture frames, bugs, you name it, and then integrate these with a variety of video and other sources. You can live stream your output over RTMP or other platforms, or connect it over SDI or NDI to your existing broadcasting systems, such as vMix, NewTek TriCaster, Wirecast, 8M, and others. Or you can record it for later broadcast, either as one ready mixed program or as separate video streams for editing in your preferred NLE. Now, you might be a business looking to create absorbing presentations and demos, or to make online meetings more appealing. Or a sports organization wanting to stream events. Or a house of worship or a community organization reaching out to a wider audience. Or an educator, an influencer, an events organizer, a public services organization, or a broadcaster. Whatever your program production needs are, NewBlue Captivate opens up your creative capabilities with a suite of powerful production tools. With Captivate, you connect and switch between live video sources such as DSLR cameras, webcams, NDI sources, and any display capture. You can mix multiple channels of audio. You can open After Effects projects and MOGATs directly in Captivate and import other media like stills or video. You can integrate external data like spreadsheets, RSS feeds, clocks, XML sources, and so much more, such as chat posts from social media. You can incorporate Teams and Zoom meetings, connect a wide and growing range of scoreboards and statistics data sources, and control NDI-enabled PTZ cameras. And you can speed up your workflow by integrating external devices such as the Elgato StreamDeck or Blackmagic Design's HyperDecks and the 8M Mini range. or supercharge your Captivate environment on dedicated hardware like the rack-mounted Fusion 2 range. Captivate has everything you need to be either your complete production gallery in a box or to tightly integrate into your existing broadcast environment.
All right. Thanks so much. We got Ian and Jacob joining us, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate the time. I'm going to ask you guys both to introduce yourselves a little bit and give us some background before we dive into the company intro. Ian, I'm going to pick on you first. If you give us a brief intro.
Perfect. Thanks for having us, and thanks for everyone for coming. I'm Ian Foster, Sales Director for NewBlue. I've been in the broadcast industry for a little over 20 years. Started off kicking around Avid as a support engineer, then moved into resellers, worked for distributors, and then a handful of other manufacturers along the way there. So I bring a decent amount of knowledge of pain points throughout the entire workflow.
I'm Jacob.
You know what oh, sorry, Jay. I was just saying, Ian, you know what it's like to hurt in the field, don't you? I can feel it in you right there. And we got to mention, Ian is Dolby adjacent today. He's not in the Dolby facilities, but it may as well be. So, he's with all the big names. I caught Avid in there. You've got some experience. I love it. Jacob, I'm sorry I cut you off.
Yeah, I missed not a natural cue for me. Either way, I'm Jacob Vernick. I'm a sales engineer here at NewBlue. I've been with the company for about 5 months. I've been in production my whole career, video editing and, live video, cloud production, everything. So, I love this. Love graphics and excited to talk to you, Joe.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys being here. It's we've got the dream team, a lot of experience across this board right here. We have worked with you guys in some other capacities and past roles, so it's going to be a fun conversation. Let's dive right in. I'm going to check my questions. I apologize, I'm on a different setup than my normal one, so my eyes are kind of all over, but we're looking good right now. If you guys have any questions, make sure you drop them in the Q&A, and let's just jump in. I'll let either of you guys take this one. You can decide who wants to answer this one, but I just want to start off just if you can say, who is NewBlue, what you guys are about, how the company developed, and just give us a little bit of background of where you came from and who you are.
Yeah, so NewBlue started out in 2016. We built a title tool for non-linear editors. So we were bundled with Avid for a long time. We also had plugins and transitions for pretty much every other editor out there. So think video effects, color correction tools like flash removal, Star Wipes, but Star Wipes Plus. And so rolled with that for about 10 years. And then in 2016, we decided to take our title tool and our title designer and turn it live. So we created what we called Titler Live, which was for building out beautiful titles that were animated and able to push out over key and fill, and then NDI shortly after that. Since 2016, we've been adding video production features to the application, such as video switching, stream encoding, Zoom team workflows, instant replay, and more to come. And then 2 years ago, we renamed it to Captivate, which we found we thought would better capture the essence of what the application was bringing to the table. So, Captivate now is really at its core, it's a live graphics engine, but it's really an affordable, easy to learn, powerful, data-driven live graphics curated with video workflow hub. So, we can either be a component in the workflow, so push into downstream keys or switchers, or we can kind of do it all. So, just add cameras, microphones, and you're ready to go.
Ian, that is a lot. When we first started working together and I was learning about the solutions, it was almost, even for a guy with me, like me, who has some experience, it was almost kind of tough to grasp what is this? And when I really stopped thinking about it as what is this? And it was more like, what isn't it? That really helped me kind of understand, what the Captivate solution is. Among other ones, I am going to ask you about some other products as well, but the main focus here today is Captivate. I appreciate the background that helps us understand kind of where you guys developed and where you came from and why you're here and what problems you're trying to solve. So that really helps us out. Captivate. We've mentioned the name a couple times. I mean, if I'm misspeaking here, please correct me, but I take this as like your kind of flagship software product. It seems to be where your history and background are. Can you guys hit us with kind of the 30,000-foot view. What is Captivate? It's a software solution. We know that. Where are we going to apply it? And, I'm going to ask to jump into a live demo at any point. So I'll let you guys kind of run with that as it works in the conversation. But can you give us an introduction to Captivate?
Yeah, so I mean, to start off, the world of graphics has been somewhat mystic area. Very expensive, difficult to learn, and we wanted to democratize the world. So we, essentially wanted schools to be able to afford a graphic solution that brought their productions, their sports teams, to their streams to look like ESPN. And then also, so House of Worship, corporate, and government could get a message out, drive engagement through their streams without having to spend, $10, $15, $50,000 to get a simple name tag at the bottom or agenda item. So what we're able to do is we're able to, we kind of went over it really already. So we're pushing graphics out over streams or pushing video content into our application and then overlaying graphics and pushing that back out. I mean, the best way to show or understand it is for Jacob to kind of pull up the demo and give us a gander at it.
This is 100% my favorite part of any one of these calls. I feel like, live demos are where it's at. The proof is in the pudding, you guys. So I appreciate you guys indulging me and diving into this live with everybody here. I will qualify this, I guess I'll say, for everybody. Anything can happen in a live demo. So for Ian and Jacob, we won't hold you guys hostage if everything's not perfect or anything like that. But I think being able to actually see the solution, get our eyes on it, for me, my favorite thing is to see how you work through it. I think that teaches me a lot more than anything. So let's take a look. Jacob, take it
someone
away.
who gives demos all the time, it's very appreciated for you to give us that grace of of knowing anything can happen. But hopefully everything will go as it planned. It usually does. All right, we're talking about Captivate right now, and we are looking at, a project I've got set up. I'm going to illustrate a couple different workflows, a couple different types of graphics that we have native in here in our library. A couple things right off the bat, right? Number one, works on Mac and Windows. We sell it as software. We also sell our Fusion hardware. So if you want a box that has SDI built in, NDI, etc., you can just buy a box from us too. I'm working off my Apple MacBook Pro M3 chip. Right now, not a crazy computer, not a crazy build, but Captivate always runs smooth on my device. What we're looking at right now over on the left-hand side is our project panel. This is where all the graphics for an individual project are going to live. We've got our preview window right here where you can see me yapping a little bit, and we can click on any graphic right here and throw that into our preview window as well. Program monitor is going to be what we're sending out, right? So I can send out up to 4K in our broadcast version. The Sport and Present versions, which are our lower SKUs, go up to 1080. And we can send it out in a bunch of different ways. People are using NDI to send into vMix or TriCaster. People are using SDI to send into any other device, right? There's so many different ways you can do it. HDMI, if you're working maybe with an HDMI ATEM. There's so many different ways you can send this out. We have native plugins with OBS. And it works. It sends key and fill out via SDI to make sure you get that transparency on any of your graphics. So let's talk a little bit about the ways we can get graphics in here, right? So right off the bat, we have our library of graphics, and I'm in one of our folders right now, which has crawls and lower thirds and agenda items and tables. And when you hover over any graphic, as you can see right here, you'll get a little preview of it in that preview window. So just an easy way to get going. But then any of these graphics in this library are editable, meaning I can take any of these graphics. We'll take this election lower third right here. And when I click on edit, it's going to open up our title designer. So now say you didn't like, this local campaign, or say you wanted to change the font, right? Every single, well, I should have chosen a font in a good language here. There we go. Nice. You choose a font in a language that works for you, in a language that works for your device, and you will be all set with your new graphics, right? Each element can be moved. Each element is editable, colors, gradients, and each element can be set as what we call variable, meaning anything can be changed about this graphic. So say I want to be able to live update that local campaign 24 text to say coming up or breaking news. As long as I declare that this text is variable, we can make that change on the fly without having to go into the title designer, copy, paste, create a new version, export that new version. I've talked to a lot of people who are still doing those workflows. They're creating an individual graphic for each name of each person who's coming into a screen. With Captivate, none of that is a concern. You just tie the data, you update it live, and everything is good to go. Coming back into our project real quick, right? I've got a couple different types of graphics built in here, lower thirds, crawls, sports graphics. One thing I do want to highlight is our integration into After Effects, right? So one way to be able to bring in graphics is by using our library of templates. The other way, though, is to be able to create your graphics in After Effects, import the AEP or MOGRT file directly into Captivate, and then play that out live with data-driven graphics, right? So, meaning this graphic, this lower third we're looking at right here, is just coming from After Effects, right? It is just an After Effects project. I can pull it up over here so I can, just the proof is in the pudding, right? This is my After Effects project.
That's right.
This graphic was fully created in After Effects. I come back, I import that AEP file in here, and now I've got that graphic going. I can come over here into the properties and just update my name, right? And now, as you can see, it's going to update live with my name. And, that graphic was fully created in After Effects, and all the data is still being driven in Captivate. So a really powerful,
cool.
A really powerful tool that only we have right now, and makes people whose lives, they don't have to learn a whole new design software, right? So many people have worked with After Effects every day of their lives, and then maybe they have to port that into a new graphic system and render out each individual element just to get it into a different graphic system. With us, you just import that project, and the everything can be updated immediately.
Jacob, I'm going to jump in
Please.
on you right here. Before we just before we go any further with the demo, I can't let this point go by without driving it home more. Not that there aren't other solutions out there, but After Effects is certainly like one of the top, if not the top, graphics and animation solutions that is on the market today and utilized. I've spent a lot of time in After Effects. It's not an easy program to learn your way around because it's just a complex solution. But it does make complex things easy. And I really appreciate the integration here. And I know a lot of folks who don't want to have to learn another program. It's exactly what you said. Can continue. They spent a lot of time learning After Effects. They can continue to use After Effects. So that integration is huge, tantamount. Number one. I am going to ask about other integrations down the line, but that is huge. Don't let it pass you by, folks. And it's so easy. The sync was real quick between that. I mean, is that because you're working on After Effects on the same machine that you're running Captivate on, or can you expect that same kind of a speed if you're working?
Great question. So
another type
the
of
way
deployment?
it works is that Captivate and After Effects are open at the same time, so they are talking to each other on the same device. So as long as they are, you have the project on your local device, Captivate is pulling directly from that render and playing that out directly here.
Awesome. I got another question popping in. Let's go with this. We've got a question. Is the font selected in After Effects or Captivate when you do the integration? It seems to me that everything is in After Effects and Captivate's just grabbing whatever there, right? Awesome. That's so cool. Great question there. Chris has another one. Will this live update the changes made in AE, or do we need to re-import? It looked like it just happened live. If I'm not mistaken.
Ideally, you wouldn't really need to be making any changes in After Effects, right? Everything would be variable in Captivate, meaning anything that you wanted to update in real time would be able to be updated in Captivate. And then I imagine every time if you make a change in After Effects, I believe it would update in Captivate. That's something I'd need to double check. Typically, though, everything that you need to update from After Effects is going to be updatable in Captivate and live, as you can see with the fonts right there.
Yeah, awesome. A couple of good questions. Appreciate you guys throwing those out there. Keep them coming. I do have another question about integrations, but it's not. Let's keep going here, and
Sounds good.
Well, slip it in when it makes a
maybe
little more sense.
Leading into it because I do want to talk a little bit about data integrations. If that's where we're going with this, I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if there's one thing we want you to take away, I'd say from today, it's data-driven graphics, right? And what does that mean? That can mean a lot of different things, right? Data can be as simple as, just coming in and updating your name, right? What is changing about this graphic? Data can also be a Google Sheet or a CSV file or a Microsoft Excel file or XML and JSON, right? All of these pre-configured formats that are pretty familiar to folks that allow you to automatically connect and update your graphics. But data can be a little bit more complex, especially when we start talking about sports. So we have integrations with Daktronics, for instance, where you can connect your data from a Daktronics scoreboard via serial to USB into Captivate to live update your scoreboards. Or Zoom in Teams, we have integrations with to be able to bring in the chat from any of those platforms or the individual ISO feeds from any of those platforms. And then social media, right? That's a huge one that we're talking to a lot of people about, because how do I make it so that I can bring in my Twitter feeds, my Facebook posts, my YouTube comments on my live stream, repurpose them so that I can show them live to make it more of an interactive experience with my audience, right? So that is a crucial thing, and we have a chat controller that allows you to bring those social media comments in. I'll just give you a simple example to start, right? And that would maybe be like a Google Sheet using this for a ticker, right? So I can come over here and start auto playing this graphic, and now I've got a ticker of different information. And if I can pull up the Google Sheet really quickly just to show you, I mean, it's just all this information, the subtitle, and then it's just all listed right here. The crawl is just pulling that information right here and updating it live, right? So that crawl is just pulling that data right in from the Google Sheet, made it super easy to set up, and updating it live. Clicking on the play button on any graphic will animate it off. We have a huge library of animations too that allow you to make your graphics a little bit more interesting. Everything doesn't have to fade on, fade off. Things can fly in, fly off, bubble up, bubble off, whatever you want it to do.
The star wipe,
of course. Everybody loves a star wipe. You've got to, you've got to use it on all your graphics. That is one requirement of this software. We do have a couple other things I'll show briefly. For instance, our Weathercast software, which, we have a bunch of pre-configured weather graphics in here for daily, current, hourly graphics. And then all you have to do is connect it up to our Weathercast data source, type in the zip code of the place you want to show the weather for, and you've got a nice 7-day forecast. So this is what we're looking at in my hometown of Asbury Park, New Jersey. Not too bad. And, if I just wanted to add another location, I just click on that add location button, type in a zip code, type in a location, and I'll have a 7-day, a current weather forecast for whatever that is. And then one more concept I want to show really quickly is the concept of a shot, right? So this is the way that we're able to build out a little bit more of what Ian was talking about earlier with those full video workflows, right? Being able to develop more scenes and looks and, not just graphics, but full on production kind of elements, right? So say, for instance, I've got a camera frame, and right now I'm bringing in my FaceTime camera just off of my Mac device. And maybe I've got a slideshow, right? Maybe I've got a Google slideshow that I want to show, and then a background. And I want to be able to string all of these together. That's the concept of a shot. I can select which graphics I want to play all at the same time with one click. And when I click on play right here, that graphic is going to animate on. And as you can see, what really happens is just all 3 of these graphics animate on. So you can build out 2 boxes, 4 boxes, singles, single with lower, single with date, and just have all of these different elements, and then cycle through the different shots you want to show. And you have a full video production workflow rather than a graphics workflow. I also use this to highlight our Google Slides or our PowerPoint kinds of integrations where, now I can drive this, this Google slide directly from here as well.
Oh, that's cool. You guys have
we have a lot of third-party integrations. Did any of those address the integrations question that came in?
It did. You started to, and I guess maybe we can just dive into it a little further. So shout out Andrew. Andrew had asked what UC integrations are there, which you did really address. It sounds like you have UC integrations for Team and Zoom, but asking a little further, maybe like how those are connected, kind of how they get hooked into the platform. I think if we can
absolutely. So for Teams and Zoom specifically, right? Let me just shut this off for a second. I can come up here to our conferencing platform, right? And we have, again, Teams and Zoom. For Zoom, I can click on join existing meeting, and it will give me a meeting ID, a password, and then you select how you want to do it, right? This is best for being able to, maybe send local feeds into Zoom, being able to pull feeds into Zoom, maybe sending RTMP to a webinar. You can also send it back into the same Zoom that you are currently working in. It's just about the workflow, what makes the most sense for you. For Teams, it's all based off of NDI. So as long as you have your NDI binaries up to date in Microsoft Teams, which they like to update frequently, you can come over to conferencing, join meeting on Teams. And then with Teams, it will just ask you, I don't have my Teams connected, but it'll just ask you any of the, or apparently I do. It will just give you any of your meeting options and allow you to select what meeting you want to go, select join Teams meeting, and then be able to bring in those camera feeds as well.
That's it's about as easy as it gets.
We try.
It's as simple as a YouTube stream or something like that. It's very easy. Here's your pedigree info, and boom, you're connected. I love that. I'm not surprised we got that question. Thanks, Andrew, for posing that. Mostly, a lot of our customers really in the core business are focused so much on UC and have been expanding. And certainly, we here are it's like the desire to improve production quality for meetings, webinars, particularly, I've talked about this before, particularly for larger companies who do keynotes, quarterly addresses, like company addresses and things like that. Like what a huge advantage to be able to do that so easily. We've got a couple more questions pouring in. I'm going to save one of them for a little bit because it ties into something else we're talking about. But Sean wants to know if you guys do software training, if there's any kind of library training, what kind of training options exist?
We do demos, we do training. If you buy hardware, it comes with 3 hours of training. So we always offer training, whatever people need, without a doubt.
And channel partners, we're always happy to jump in and sit with you for as long as you need.
On that point, something I like to ask folks a lot is like, how open are you guys to doing demos with channel partners and their end users? Is that something you steer away from?
That's what we're going for.
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially what we're doing here now. We do often end up with some end users on the program, so appreciate those who are joining in. But these conversations are generally geared towards channel partners, so the language and the verbiage we use is often down that line. But it really helps to have a partner who knows their solution inside and out to be leading that kind of charge, and we can let our partners just make the connections. And usually they'll learn something themselves along the way. So I love to see that. Great questions, folks. Keep them coming. I really appreciate that. Jacob, is there more demo? I'm all about the demo.
Two more things I want to highlight just from, I know we're focused on, there's a lot of different workflows. I think when people think about graphics, though, a lot of it can be tied into sports, and I haven't spent too much time at sports. So I do want to just show a couple of things, right? We have a whole, please. Our library of graphics has tons of different scoreboards. It's got, just to give you an example, basketball scoreboards, single player highlights, starting lineups. We have tons of different graphics that you can use to really enhance the value of your sports production. I've been seeing a lot of broadcasts lately. They might just have a camera that shoots the scoreboard, and then they put that as a picture-in-picture in the bottom right-hand corner. With us, there's so many different ways you can bring in scoreboard data to automate that process and make your user, the viewer experience just much better, right? Like adding graphics, it adds value to the stream, makes everything look a little bit nicer. So if I come over here to our scoreboard, I can click on add source, come down to sports, and these are, the massive list of integrations that we have. This is, some people need something as simple as JSON. Some people, Scorebird is one of our partners. Their devices can send directly to us. Sportscast, Stat Crew, XML. And then for the people who don't have the luxury of being able to, connect automatically into a scoreboard, we have our own embedded scoreboard tool in here, right? So I can just connect up a basketball scoreboard and then, be given this. And now I've got everything I need to be able to drive my scoreboard graphics. The really nice thing about this is that it can be spun out to somebody on the same network. So what we see a lot of people do is they'll click on open in browser, and then you can just click on open in local browser. You can show a QR code if somebody just wants to scan it. But when I click on open in local browser, now I can drive the production from my device, right? I can be sitting on the sideline with an iPad while Ian is back in the press box working on the actual play out of the graphics. But every change that I make, when I click on +2 here to the visitor score, that automatically is going to update to +2 in the visitor score.
Or with
right?
the StreamDeck.
Yeah, exactly. You can use BitFocus Companion to do this with a StreamDeck. You can, we integrate with the StreamDeck API as well. There's so many different ways you can set up different kinds of workflows to really make this powerful. There's a ton of different, types of sports use cases. We have scoreboards for baseball, basketball, volleyball, soccer, and there's so many different ways that you can enhance the value of your sports streams.
I'm going to
say one of the things that I really love about working here is, I've been with hardware for most of my career. or very big software companies that, it took a while to get things put in. We're very nimble and dynamic, and, any user feedback, for one, gets into the product fairly quickly. But generally, the answer with us is yes. The question is, does the integration exist currently? Or how long or how much will it cost to work it into the product? We worked with a aerospace company recently, and it was quite a bit of work for the engineers to take that telemetry data from the rocket and put it into pretty graphics. And I'll tell you, the alternative solution that was out there was about $250,000. We were able to provide the solution for them for under $60,000. And that was really cool. We did that in about a month. There's a lot of interesting information that we had to parse and then visualize. But through
That's
either
so cool.
professional services, through us, through partners, or through, if you understand API workflows, you can jump right in, build controllers, build integrations. If we don't have a radar gun, a specific radar gun for baseball, or any other data source, we can quickly get that into this application.
That's so cool and in depth. And on my experience working with you guys, which is brief at this point, but I just want to reinforce, like, you guys have said yes to pretty much everything I've ever asked in terms of questions. So that's cool. But now, what a setup. I'm curious if you'll say yes to this. In the scoreboard integration, I'm curious, and this is the Joe question. I've spent some time working the stats desk for a couple of sporting events and different, mostly at the collegiate level. And I'm just curious. So you brought up the Google Sheet integration for a data source. Can the Google Sheet feed the scoreboard?
Oh, absolutely. I was actually just talking to a guy at the ACM West conference last week who has one person running the graphics, and then he has another, either intern or hire, full-time employee who sits and does all the stats on a Google Sheet. So they're doing a basketball game, every rebound, every field goal made, every field goal attempted, increment by one. Right. So they have, I imagine it's a good bit of work, Joe. It sounds like, tracking those stats can be a good bit of work, but it gives you just so much a richer experience for your viewer, right? Somebody goes to the foul line and now you can have a lower third with their picture, their name, today's field goal percentage, today's points, rebounds, assists, right?
So cool. And, my specific experience working stats desk, there was a team of us. I mean, it's a Big Ten school, so there was a team of us, and I'm running and clicking, something as simple as shots on goal. And that's all I'm tracking, right? I could not imagine having to keep track of a whole game stats, but these little things adding up are really what takes the production to I don't even want to say to the next level, because like that doesn't do it justice. But now you're talking about something that goes from like an amateur look to a very professional, and you can in terms of the look and feel, like now you're competing with the likes of ESPN and all of the major broadcasters who have teams and truckloads of equipment and resources. So that is huge. I love that you guys can say yes to everything. I didn't want to put us in a position to have to say no there, so I was glad you guys hit that one out of the park. Nice job.
You have plenty of time. Try and find a no from us.
I love it. Jacob, we got
I think that's it for me.
Again, I don't want to cut it short. Awesome. Let me check. We do have a couple of questions. Oh, hey, great question here. Any scoreboards for pickleball? It's picking up steam.
You know what? That's a great point. As Ian said, we don't say no to anything. The answer right now would be no. We don't have any scoreboards for pickleball, but that doesn't mean we can't have any scoreboards for pickleball.
I think we were working on something maybe 2 years ago for a pickleball league. So there might be something that just hasn't made it into the product yet.
Yeah. And again, it's the kind of thing, though, that I think Ian hinted at this a little bit earlier, right? For some, this is relevant. For some, this is not. But we have an open API, right? So we have the ability for you to say, man, this doesn't exist. But for you, if you are familiar with HTML and JavaScript, to build out your own custom controllers to be able to drive that on your own, right? So I'm not the most technical. I took one JavaScript class in college, and I can talk to ChatGPT enough to know what I'm doing. But when the World Darts Championship was going on, I noticed we didn't have anything for darts, and I was just like, let's see if I can build a darts controller. And I did, right? So I built a darts controller by myself using our API, and I can, type in the score values, type in the closeout values, type in all that information, increment games, increment sets. and then have that call into a scoreboard directly in Captivate. That's what
In
makes it so
20.
easy. You always have the option to do something yourself if you want, or you can say, hey, you guys can do that for us.
I'm trying really hard to not sound like a broken record here. And apologies if you guys have had to listen to me in the background over this demo, just going, cool. Oh, that's cool. It's all really cool. And my favorite part is just the ease of use. Anybody who's been on, watched us on this program before knows that I work really hard to not be too much of a cheerleader. I'm here to definitely wave the flag when it's appropriate, but I'm not afraid to challenge, as I was with my question before. And I was worried we were setting ourselves up, but we work really hard to kind of just keep it real here. And you guys, have made it so easy to just do so many things that in the past have been so incredibly complex. So it's like, I'm kind of taken aback and blown away. We've got a couple questions stacking up. This leads into a question I have. So I'm going to pop up Andrew's question. I wanted to ask about pricing. We're talking about software here, just what the model looks like, not even specifics really, but just what the model looks like. And Andrew kind of tied into this asking how many of the features mentioned are built in versus expansion licenses purchased for additional fees. Yeah,
Oh,
that's a good one. So are these all included
Great
features?
questions.
Are they add-ons? Are there packages? What does that look
that's
like?
a perfect question because we have a little, we're going to open the kimono for our NAB announcements to you guys first. So first and foremost, Present and Sport, they're limited to 3 on-screen graphics, 1 single channel of output, and 14 graphics in your project. We found that their starting price, so Present is $7.99 for perpetual, $2.99 for annual, $49 for monthly subscription. Sports, $1,000 for perpetual, meaning it's yours forever. $3.99 for annual and $69 monthly. And then Broadcast, which has everything in it, 16 channels of output, unlimited layers, every data controller you can think of, and over 1,000 preset templates in there. That's $4,999 for the perpetual, $1,999 annual subscription, and then $249 for monthly. So what Broadcast has included in it that are add-ons to Present and Sport are the Weathercast controller and instant replay. So what I found through talking to end users and channel is that the jump from $1,000 to $5,000 is quite large, and people maybe need a component of Broadcast, but they don't need to be spending another $3,000, $4,000 for that. So at NAB, we'll be announcing very creative name add-ons for Present and Sport SKUs. So you'll be able to add more layers to them. You'll be able to add more channels of output, more Zoom participants, and other things. We've also got media sequencer, an advanced media sequencer that lets you roll through media clips. That'll be an add-on. But at the base of it, you're ready to go with presets with the data controllers. We don't currently charge anything for extra data controllers. If there's something that comes out that is going to take us, a while to build, then that'll be included in Broadcast most likely, and then Present and Sport will be able to purchase those. We also found that education, their budget's about $1,000 for software. So with them, they can start off, year one, find how they like the application, and then year two go, well, we did need an extra channel in there. We did need an extra this and that. Our new templates, we do charge for those. It's very affordable at $150 generally for about 9 graphics. Competitors out there are charging anything from $4,000 to $10,000 for a similar sports pack or election packs. So very competitive there. And if there's something you want that we don't have and aren't bringing to the table, we can create a custom graphics package for you. So we've been working with CCAA, which is California Collegiate Athletic Association, about 15 schools in California, Mountain West as well. And we're building out custom graphics for them every year or couple. So they just do a refresh on there. And it's just, it's much quicker and easier to have us do that than get their team to do it.
And
yeah, that's awesome. That gets into the professional services offering and being able to say, hey, you might have people that are capable of doing this, but if you don't have the resources available, here's a very affordable way to still get to your end solution. So that's great. Jacob, did you have
I just wanted to add
something?
one thing, which is I've been demoing this whole time with Captivate Broadcast, which, as Ian mentioned, is the main, the premium SKU. I believe the only thing I demoed that's not available in Presenter Sport is our After Effects integration, which, as Ian mentioned, will be available as an add-on in the coming months. So basically everything I showed is available for an $800 perpetual license.
Awesome. Guys, that's a crazy and affordable for the type of functionality we're talking about. I would love to challenge you guys a little more and
Keep it
not
coming.
just give you guys questions you can keep saying yes to, but here you are. We do have some more questions lining up. George has a question for us that, well, I didn't even make it on the screen. It's a little wordy, but I think really what George is looking for, if you guys have any use cases specifically for the UC and enterprise space, with integrations that are maybe a little more commercial AV friendly, I guess is the way to say it. And what George kind of highlights here is that a lot of times there is in-house staff that maybe is capable of kind of setting some things up and running things, but they can't, they can't they can't do the deep dive. If there's a problem, maybe they can't get into the troubleshooting, but perhaps maybe they can run some of this functionality from, maybe a third-party control system or something like that to trigger events. I mean, is there any kind of use cases like that? Are you guys seeing applications like that?
Yeah, Jacob, are you able to
Particularly like the
pull up
UC space?
your
Yeah, I can pull something up real
controller
quick.
thing?
Yeah, so
So,
go ahead, Ian.
oh, well, so I was going to say, the user interface is highly configurable, so you can make the interface very friendly to people that are just coming in to use either a touch screen on it, a StreamDeck, or the mouse or keyboard. We can remove all of the fluff that's around there and just have literally those scenes, the switches, and then a preview window or program window. But we've been looking at more and speaking to Midwich and the farm about building out a QSys control panel for this. So what Jacob's going to show you will basically would look a little bit different on the QSys side, but shows the functionality. So someone can start a meeting, start a stream, switch through the cameras. You want to talk through that one yourself?
Yeah, happy to. So this is a wildly basic controller, and there's something else I'll show you in the control in Captivate as well that I think makes things a little bit easier too. But this is something, again, because of our API, you can build out your own custom solutions, or again, we can build out our own custom solutions to make Captivate look as unintimidating, as simple to use as possible, right? I can just have a command that gets all the titles. This just pulls every title in from Captivate. And when I click on that title, it plays that title, right? When I click on that title again, it plays that title off. If I have any camera sources in here, like my FaceTime camera, it will bring that camera source in. If I have, if I want to start sending NDI, I can click on start streaming right here, and you'll see over here, I've got NDI now going out. I can click on stop and it will turn off. So this is how we can make things even more intuitive, right? Just a user HTML page. If you needed to update a lower third, for instance, you just type in the name, type in the title, update that lower third. We try to make it as simple as possible, but if it's still not simple enough, you can really pull out anything you don't want a user to see and build something like this.
And we've been working with
So
Stripe
cool.
to help them with their broadcast. So, they've got a big auditorium in the facility, and so the CEO will get up there and talk quarterly. They'll bring in guests. What they were lacking was some of the basic lower titles in there, but also the chat controller. That was really interesting to them. They've got about 1,000 people on Slack, and so we're working on a chat controller that pulls the data from Slack, the questions from Slack, and then pushes that onto the screen. So you don't need someone in your ear, or the CEO doesn't need someone in their ear calling out the question. They don't need someone calling out or holding up. It is on screen or on the preview monitor for that presenter. And Stripe is pretty big with their broadcast. They were spending fair few million a year getting outside companies to come in and do their productions, and they figured that they could get a team in-house and then send them around the world and run these productions. So they were using TriCaster before, but believe it or not, they've moved from TriCaster to vMix. And then using us for the data-driven graphics on that. So they've been able to increase engagement and add a little bit more branding to their looks.
That's so cool.
Right now,
I can't imagine the money they're
yeah,
saving.
and right now, where we're seeing a lot of movement is the local city governments. I'm from around Sacramento, and so we've been working very closely with Access Sacramento, who absolutely loves us, and now has gotten another 15 cities around Northern California to take us up. We've got Virginia is quickly filling up with us. It's either local communities that have been doing their meetings with Zoom and Teams, and so it just looks like the Brady Bunch box. And if you're using something like Granicus and Swagit, that'll throw a title down, but it's just very basic, and it often is covering people's faces. So our solution gives them the flexibility to really have control of it. Unfortunately, government is government, so they don't really like the flash and flare. I did a good little audit of different cities around, and of course, LA, they've got the animations, glitzy and glammy. They've got an agenda actually scrolling, where a lot of other cities are just putting the agenda item up and then changing over to the person who's talking. But again, these are increasingly price sensitive areas.
Yeah.
And so when they're faced with upgrading their Compics, which a lot of ones went for, Compics doesn't exist anymore. So their alternatives out there are 20,000, 50,000 for a very simple workflow, where with the Fusion SDI, which most of them are going for, they can get that done for about $14,000. That's including extra years of warranty and extra years of maintenance. So
Wow. Wow. That you led right into a question we got. Andrew's wheeling and dealing today with a lot of great questions. We appreciate all the questions. They've been really great so far. But do you guys have templates then for and Andrew specifically was wondering if you had templates or functions focused on municipal applications for like small governments. He mentioned talk timers, timer outputs. You mentioned questions. I mean, there's so many things for that. But obviously we know you can make them if you don't have them, but just curious if you guys have been working that way. Are there any built in yet?
Definitely agenda. And then for clock, I know we definitely have clocks in there, and we also have our own custom clock, kind of data controllers, right? So I'm not necessarily in the right kind of graphic right now, but just to show you, I can add a source, come over to general, and then I've got clocks. So I can either just pull in the system time, if that's the relevant information, or I could just spin out a custom clock and say, hey, this is going to be a 5-minute countdown for somebody at the podium, and click on go and, have that clock start counting down. So we do have a lot of different types of graphics, picture-in-picture, agendas, lower thirds, and a lot that, government is using. And while I have you guys here, I just wanted to illustrate the last piece of how simple we can make workflows, right? At the end of the day, what I've got right here is all a user needs to see. They just need to see the shots that you've built, which again, these are just a couple of graphics strung together, and then they can cycle through which ones they want to go live. And I think this is a pretty intuitive concept for anybody, right? You have your title screen, then you go to your 2-box, right? And I've got myself coming into my 2-box. Maybe we have, chat and a poll or some information like that, right? We've got me and Ian talking, and we've got engagement, we've got polls, we've got the chat, or we can pull in a Google sheet with me talking, right? So obviously all of this data would be filled in ahead of time, but it's easy it doesn't need much setup. It needs very minimal setup. And then all you need to see is the program out and the options you have, and that's the user experience.
That's so awesome. Obviously, on the show, we know how hard it can be to stand up these types of solutions. So I love seeing the ease of use here. You guys are running out of time. Certainly, if there's any more questions, go ahead and get them in now before we get to the end here. There was more things I wanted to talk about. I've got a whole list of questions we didn't even get to that I had, and that's all right. We can get into more another time. But I did want to bring Fusion into this. I know you guys have we've talked about software thus far, and we got a question specifically about Fusion. Jeff really asked, what does Fusion hardware add for the user? If we can kind of get a brief highlight of Fusion and what that does.
At the very core of it, one throat to choke, right? You don't need to find out where your IO card came from. You don't need to find out where your computer came from. It's got our stamp of approval on it. It's going to do the job. So we've got 3 versions. There's Fusion NDI, SDI, and Extreme. And the difference between those is NDI has no SDI output. It's up to, we have a 2.5 gig NIC on there, but generally you're going to be throwing that into a 1 gig net infrastructure. So I would say you're probably going to be safe with about 6 channels of output over that, over NDI there. The SDI, it's still got the same software in there, so you're still getting the option to run NDI out of that, but you've now got 2 spigots of SDI key and fill out, so 4 separate SDIs, and that's a HD workflow there. And then 4K Extreme, that's your 4K box that comes with either an AJA or a Blackmagic card, and then there's also has dual power supply and is 2 RU. So that's more for the professional and broadcast space, that's needing that, 24/7 uptime and emergency, if you had a lightning strike or something like that. Once again, we've got, a little pre-NAB surprise for you guys. So, the starting prices for the NDI is 8,995, the SDI is 10,995, and then the Extreme is either 16,999 or 17,999, no, 16,995 or 19,995. So again, we have a little gap in there. So I am waiting for the shipment of my new Fusion M little computer to come. It's based around a Nook, but it's an i7, very powerful little device that is going to be specifically for NDI, but it's going to come in at 4,995. So that's going to have Present Plus, I call it, software. So we're going to have sports data controllers and graphics in there, Present data controllers and graphics in there, and a couple extra little things like extra channels. It's going to be predominantly NDI based, just because it's a Nook. We don't really have an I/O slot in there. It does have an M.2, so you could get something else in there. But you're able to tie that with something like a Thunderbolt device that is either your AJA IOXT, so that you can get key and fill out of it over SDI, or one of the Blackmagic devices like an Ultra Studio HD. So very flexible, great entry point there, and should fit into the budgets for schools and things that don't want to mess around with trying different computers. Often what we find is people come to us after playing around with the software, and they bring up very long render times. So when Jacob was playing around with the application or with the graphics, every time you move them, they're going to render and cache. And once they're rendered in cache, they're fine. They're not going to have to redo that during a production. But that initial setup can be kind of worrying. You're like, why is this taking 40 seconds? Well, it turns out they're on an i3, or they've got not enough RAM, not enough cores. And so this just takes the mystery out of it. And it should be for channel partners a set and forget to a degree. They don't need to worry. Support gets picked up by us for everything after that. And then for end users, again, it's that peace of mind that they're purchasing something that's purpose built and it's going to work out of the box.
So cool. I love taking the guesswork out of it so that you don't run into those issues is certainly a huge advantage for channel partners to ensure that their end user customers have a quality experience. Love to see you guys coming in with even more affordable solutions. I mean, in the scheme of it all, it's already very affordable. But to your point, LA County might have the money to do some flashy things, but a lot of municipalities, small governments, and small businesses do not have that kind of budget. We got a great question, and I got two more, and I'm going to end it on these. They are quick ones. On the NDI Fusion box, is that full NDI or is it NDI?
It's full NDI.
Can you run on the SDI box? Can you run NDI and SDI concurrently?
Not concurrently, but that's a feature request that we have received. So considering you can do up to 16 channels out of this because it's running broadcast, you need a few more SDI cards for that. But if you want to take advantage of NDI, we're probably going to hit a point we haven't fully tested how many we can do concurrently because it's not something that exists right now. But we will get there, hopefully this year.
How about for redundancy? The NDI SDI question.
Yeah, so I discussed this with a municipality the other week. So you can hook up the Ethernet. You should be anyways because you're pushing it out to the internet potentially or pulling these data controllers through. But you can connect up the Ethernet and your SDI, and if your SDI signal drops out, then you can quickly switch over to NDI. And Jake can do that.
Awesome. That's a great question.
Yep.
Awesome. Last question. I appreciate everybody so much. Is there a demo version, any kind of free trial sort of solutions available for people to get in and play with the software and get familiar with?
Head to our website and select the version you want to play with. They're fully featured. They just have a little orange box on the output. So, yeah.
Cool. Wow. You guys, we didn't even get to, I wanted to ask about ScoreView. I wanted to dive maybe a little deeper into the Fusion hardware. We can save that stuff for another time, but I will be at NAB. I'm excited to see you guys there. If I check my notes, I see you guys are in the South Hall, SL 6705 for anybody who's going to be attending NAB. Certainly you can use the NAB website or app to get that information or find on NewBlue. But I just want to give you guys the opportunity. Any parting comments? Thanks so much for joining us. Where can the people find you? Jacob, if you want to go first.
I appreciate you having us, Joe. This was a really great conversation. Feel free to reach out to us on our website, on LinkedIn, however you want to get in touch, and hope to see anybody and everybody at NAB.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And Ian, I assume you are, I believe you're on LinkedIn. I think we're connected there. Yeah. Are you on any other social? Or is that
that's where to find me. But yeah, if you just want to hit sales@newblueinc.com, you'll come into Jake and myself, and one of us will reach out and meet up with you. We'd love to dive in, a little bit deeper on an individual basis. So feel free to contact and set something up.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. And I want to say thanks to the audience for joining us. I'm hitting my random name picker right now. Blah, 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 blah. And we're going to see who goes ahead and wins this Stream Deck. Garrick Huey. Awesome. Thank you, Garrick, so much for joining us. We'll follow up with you after the program to make sure that you go ahead and get that Stream Deck delivered to you, provided by the wonderful team at NewBlue. Find on the website, we're going to be back next week with a revisit for Bose Professional to dive a little deeper with them next Thursday at 1 p.m. Central. And until then, thanks again, everybody, for joining us.